Hey everyone, it's BO Productions, and if you follow news about the Lord of the Rings, you've probably heard about a little TV show coming out in September called The Rings of Power. This show claims to be about the events of the Second Age of Middle-earth based solely on Appendix B of The Lord of the Rings. Now, maybe you've seen the trailers for it, maybe you haven't, but if you do follow Lord of the Rings discussion forums or YouTube channels, you've probably seen that a lot of people are really upset about the show. To see why this is, it's worth giving a bit of background on it. First, it's being made by Amazon for their streaming service, and Appendix B is supposedly all they have rights to. As a result, several thousand years of history are being condensed into like 20, so it can be fashioned into a TV show with a continuous storyline that the masses can comprehend. Big surprise, they're not catering to just the Tolkien fans for this show. As you might also expect, the show uses several characters previously seen in the Lord of the Rings movies, while inevitably introducing some new ones not even mentioned in the appendix. And it's also worth noting that the show's budget is likely to exceed $1 billion once the show finishes its intended 5 seasons. With that budget, it's definitely going to look fantastic visually. No one is disagreeing there. On the other hand, the simultaneous condensation of the timeline and expansion of the story is probably throwing some people off, and then a variety of details seen in the trailers and commented on by the show's creators are drawing the ire of the fans. Apparently, there are some things in the show that people think don't belong. I'm not even going to attempt to list them here, but they're not hard to find since it's all over the internet. I will say though that I also heard that Amazon is attempting to Game of Thrones-ify Middle-earth with this show by adding in the usual crap, swearing, nudity, and so on, elements in Game of Thrones that apparently people liked even though Middle-earth has done just fine without them. Honestly, when I look at all the story elements we know about, what with the hobbits, the men and elves fighting evil, yet another love story between a man and an elf, and so on, it kinda seems like they're just redoing the plot from the Lord of the Rings movies, stretched out into TV show form with added R-rated content. And throw in the infamous checklist modern media always follows, and you can kinda see why people on the internet are freaking out. A lot of people. But here's the thing about the Rings of Power. It's a screen adaptation. It's not adding anything to the canon of Lord of the Rings, merely attempting to portray that canon on screen. Hence the trailer says, based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. The show isn't trying to change or add to the official canon, thank goodness for that. The canon of Middle-earth is safely contained solely within the pages of Tolkien's books, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Hobbit, the Silmarillion, and the other unfinished history found in all the books published posthumously. That's it. Nothing else may now or in the future can or will ever be considered canon, unless I guess the Tolkien estate declares it as such. But now consider another long-standing, well-beloved franchise with its own trilogy of movies loved by its fans, Star Wars. Unlike Lord of the Rings, Star Wars canon is defined almost entirely by its on-screen media. There have been tons of books and comics written for Star Wars over the years, but they've never been part of the official George Lucas canon. Even in the Disney Star Wars era, where every piece of Star Wars material is supposed to become official canon, books and comics are often ignored or contradicted by the shows, which are then taken to be the true canon. That's a massive pitfall for Star Wars. Every new piece of Star Wars content produced is supposed to fit into and add to the existing canon. You add something bad to the canon, and now you've ruined it. The story no longer fits together as well as it should. This is painfully true at present, with Disney mucking with one popular character after another and screwing it up every single time. But Disney holds all the power. They get to say what is official canon and what isn't, and fans are forced to retreat to a personal head canon when the official canon becomes a jumbled pile of crap. This is why Star Wars as a franchise is dying at the moment. The canon is being destroyed, and with it the interest of the fans who cared about it. This is not what will happen with the Rings of Power though, because it's not canon. Amazon doesn't have that power, the Tolkien estate does. And remember, the show calls itself an adaptation, so the Tolkien estate doesn't consider it canon. Side note, the only people for whom this show's events might become the canon story are the casual viewers who don't know the story of Middle-earth as told in the books. But to be blunt, these people aren't really fans. They're consumers consuming content served to them, giving Amazon money in return, which is all Amazon really wants. When it comes to protecting the canon, these people don't matter because they don't care, which is probably why Amazon thinks it can get away with altering the canon for a TV show. But since the show won't affect the actual canon, it's not necessary for a Middle-earth fan to watch it or even care that it exists. Now, I'm not saying that people can't complain about the show or anything like that. Fans of Middle-earth are allowed to want a TV show about their favorite story to be good and enjoyable to watch, and they can certainly voice their concerns when it isn't. And let's face it, the Rings of Power is probably going to suck. It's almost guaranteed simply because it's being made by a mega corporation that just wants to make money off an existing IP with a large fan base, without a care for the IP itself. A scenario far too common in today's media. But I guess my point is that Lord of the Rings fans shouldn't completely lose their minds over Rings of Power. Just ignore it.
Regardless of what the actors or producers or whoever have been saying to the fans. Ignore that too. Giving them attention only gives them power.
I certainly don't plan to watch it unless I hear reports that somehow it is really good. I don't feel like giving Bezos more money to fund his giant space penis, and thankfully I don't need to in order to get the full story of Middle-earth. Don't forget, if you really want to let Amazon know your displeasure, don't pay for the show, or if you already have a Prime membership and you don't want to get rid of it, just don't watch it.
Let it fail. Remember, Amazon only wants your money.
Maybe the viewer numbers will be low enough that the show flops and the further seasons will get cancelled. Regardless, again, the show isn't actually changing the story of Middle-earth, so it really can't, or at least shouldn't, mar fans' enjoyment of Tolkien's world. The same is just not true of a franchise like Star Wars, where a bad show or movie does, in fact, degrade the whole canon. So, Middle-earth fans, complain if you must, but just be glad this show can't bring ruin to your franchise. Remember, it could be worse. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and please like the video if you enjoyed it. This video format is different from the others on my channel, so I appreciate any feedback. Either way, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.